Right. Uh, well, today's always have to send Jared, who my son, who puts this up on YouTube. I have to send him a little compact title to title it when he puts it up on the web, and this would be called "Meditation and the Enneagram." Now, if you're just popping in and you really don't know anything about meditation, and you're a beginner at meditation, maybe, and maybe you don't know anything about the Enneagram. There was a day when I didn't, when I found a book on the shelf that just said "Discover the Enneagram." I just pulled it off the shelf. I was in pretty bad straits. Marriage had fallen apart. I wasn't even living at home, and I was living in a bookstore, more or less. Where they had just back when they had bookstores. This was near Rice University. We were in Houston, and I would come in and sit in the cushy chairs and read all day, until they closed. So I just pulled this book off the shelf one day called "Discovering the Enneagram." Never had heard the name. I didn't know what an Enneagram was, and I didn't know who Richard Rohr was at the time. It's hard to believe, but I didn't. And that was the beginning. That was, 1980. So more than 40 years ago. And yet, and I've been a student of the Enneagram for more than 40 years, but I still feel like a beginner. So if you don't know anything about the Enneagram, don't worry about it. Or know just a little bit. You'll learn a little bit more today in a very broad way. We're not going to dive down into the nitty gritty of it, but give you sort of a broad sense of it. Those of you who've done your own work, or maybe you're currently working with Linda Rands and her study group of the Enneagram. Yeah, I mean, it's a system that came out of the Middle East. Probably the Sufis would be my bet. Came out of some kind of desert wisdom, and it was a gospel. It was some good news, because in this human journey, it's pretty difficult, pretty confusing, and it's good to have help. It's good to have help, and this was guidance, I think, primarily for Sufi sheikhs to be working with their dervishes or novices. It gave them a way to know exactly what they're dealing with this novice or that novice, and heck, to sort of pinpoint how to help them. The Enneagram is about help. It's not about the intellect so much as about uses the intellect to find to get help in this journey. We can get stuck on the surface of life for an entire incarnation, and it helps you go deeper. Now there's two levels to the Enneagram. The first level we pick up is, and I'm going to show you a symbol in a minute of the Enneagram and how we'll work with this symbol. It gives you, like, in time and space, a kind of architecture for working with all of human energy. All the energy of the cosmos can be worked out in this 9 points. Enneagram means 9. Ennea means 9 in Greek, and gram means points. So there's these 9 points in this structure, and it helps you navigate the whole universe. It helps you gain as much energy as possible for this journey. So that's a plus. But it's like a two-tiered kind of a proposition here, and you can get stuck on the upper level, which just basically talks, if you've been around here for a while, we talk about operating systems of the consciousness, and the upper tier just shows you in humiliating detail, really, how, the first two operating systems, the survival operating system we have as children, and then the more sophisticated strategic operating system that we develop with the left brain. It'll show you those two to where you really see what's going on. And then there's a third operating system, which is at a deeper level. And that's what we've called here, our vocabulary in Heart to Heart was the heart operating system, the sacred operating system. And even once you see that, I don't care how many books you read. And I know people who have gone to workshops, read books. They have it in the left brain. They know where the way the arrows go and all this minutia, but they're still on that upper level of what you can do with the body and mind. And how do you get to that deeper level of the essence of your soul? Well, the interface, the way to go from the surface to the depths is a meditation. So we're going to work on these two systems today and how they come together. That's something not quite understood. You cannot go to the deepest level just by reading the books or just by listening to a talk. You have to get the basics, know your way around, and then have a practice of meditation. I would say a daily practice of meditation. Otherwise, it's going to take lifetimes here, folks. Might still take lifetimes, but when you apply meditation to what the Enneagram can teach you, you're in business. And so today, that's what we're going to do. And the interface, that's kind of the chutes and ladder place to go from the surface to the depths. I'm just going to suggest one wisdom sentence that I've been using lately. I like it a lot. Just 10 words, each one syllable word. And it goes like this. I'll repeat it a couple of times and we'll see how it works with the Enneagram. Some of you know it already. Be still and trust the love that moves the stars. Be still and trust the love that moves the stars. I think it's a great contemplative sentence. I started out just using the Psalm 46, line 10, be still and know that I am God. That'll work too. That'll work too. And that's a really good way to sort of go what I call this going down the stairway to heaven. So when we, few minutes when we sit in silent meditation, I'll use these words, just these 10 words, be still and trust the love that moves the stars. I'll use that to help us sort of go down the stairway to heaven. You might know the song Stairway to Heaven. Well, most, the ladder to heaven, Jacob's ladder, all this sort of goes up. But really in meditation, we're going down, like again, where the roots are, you see, like in this, I'm teaching, I have a 3-hour retreat tomorrow for my wife's Montessori crew. I'm the cheapest guy around, so they're coming in for their retreat before they start. And so I'm going to use this. Some of you know this image of when you go down, and on the very bottom, the Zen guys say the big fish are in the bottom of the pond. And so in the bottom, I have a little lucite look-alike diamond here, which is the image of the indestructible, sacred part of us, the heart. The whole thing is the soul, by the way. We are a soul, you see. And so we got on the very surface of things that left brain that spins all the time, which you always notice when you try to just sit down in the silence and be, it's spinning. So that's like the surface of things. And then there's the body, which is, that's the mind. And then the body, which is mostly water, as they say. And then in the very bottom, the essence. And how do you get from that spinning mind down there? So that's what learning of the practice of meditation is. I didn't shake it up, which you could do. If you shake it up, you lose the view of the bottom, of course. I didn't shake it up because I wanted to be clear enough to start these Montessori teachers on tomorrow. Okay, well, let's work with this screen share today, if I can get it, and give us a way that you could interface these two things. Are you seeing it? Hopefully, yeah. Okay, let me get this there. Yeah, and uh, I put this meditation sentence, this wisdom sentence. Sort of spread it around the Enneagram just to give you a way, especially if you guys know the Enneagram a little bit, how this all falls out. Uh, Interestingly enough, in the Enneagram, the 9 points, the center is empty, which is interesting because that's the heart of it. You know, if it were all filled, well, there'd be no movement. But this is the Enneagram shows you a dynamic process that's always wanting to happen. And we're not getting into the, the fine tuning of this, but we're looking at this thing. But at the very center is the emptiness. And in the very center is just the pure being, pure stillness, pure emptiness. That's the engine of the whole thing. And that certainly is the start of, and it is both the path and the goal of meditation. Just simply in a minute when we hit the bell and I'll chant a few words and then we're just going to be still in the silence. And it will be pretty silent, but this thing will still be moving, of course. And that's the idea of the first two words. Being is the whole purpose, the every step and the goal of meditation is pure being. That's the diamond at the bottom of the jar. That's the heart essence, is pure being. The 9 points just show you your own flavor. It's like with a diamond, there's 8 facets. That's the way they usually cut diamonds, with 8 facets, and then the point is the 9th. And so these are all facets of unity. It's one diamond, but these different facets. And so when you find out your particular flavor and temperament, then you can start to work with it rather than against it. Some people, it's very common that people grow up in a family where their own temperament, their own form of energy is not allowed. And then they have to go to another temperament. And you may have felt that living in your family of origin, that you had to adopt a kind of different persona. You had to start pretending from day one that you weren't who you were. Well, this is about first of all, finding out what is your energy, and that's what the points are. But and so you can learn about that. That's helpful, and you can learn about these two very important programs, but not the ultimate ones. The childhood operating system, which kept us alive for a while. Most mammalian guys who studied mammals just say that we probably should have spent another year in the womb because when we came out, we couldn't do anything. A horse, a little foal that comes out, or a cow, they're gambling around, et cetera. They can find their mother. Where we're sort of helpless. We're all premature in a way, in that sense. And so it takes us about a year to even start walking around. So, but we do have these temperaments. We do have these energy flows that are often very different. And if your family didn't allow it, then you had to start over time, especially by the time you start growing up and going to school. School doesn't allow certain energy forms. So the 9 energy forms, the 9 temperaments. But even when you learn all about it, to actually go to the deeper level of you're finding your essence, your true self, you have to learn how to be still, and that's the start of it. Okay. So that's primarily what we're doing in meditation, but that's also how you can actually get in touch with that deeper self. That's not the persona that it's okay that we had to devise to survive our families, schooling, workplace, nothing wrong with it. But we all long for something else. We long for that deeper self. Yeah, that diamond nature in which where we're united with the really the whole cosmos. Okay, God, if you want to call it that. I'm okay with the G word, but it's that part of you that's united and tied into all this. See. So now, so be still. That's important because we're all running around. We're like dogs chasing our own tail. That's why we don't, that's why in a way we stay on the surface of things, like the left brain. Left brain has certain parameters, but it can't go beyond them into mystery. It's no good for it. So we end up chasing our own tail for a whole lifetime, maybe, and never slowing down enough. And that's the thing about meditation, slow. It doesn't get any slower than being still. Okay. The still point of the turning world, as T.S. Eliot talks about, when we go into meditation, you're still at the center of this turning wheel of energy, and you can actually see it. Everything starts to calm down and you get clearer. Okay. Now, so physical stillness, a quiet atmosphere, that's helpful. But then the mind's still spinning. And so the be still and trust. The trust is at the 6 point there. The 5, 6, 7 neighborhood. That's the key issue for anybody who finds out that they're a 5, 6, or a 7 temperament. Trust, basic trust of the universe. In meditation, basic trust of the process. Okay, you cannot think your way to the source. And 5, 6, and 7 is sort of the mind neighborhood where we think we can think our way there. Well, we can't. You have to just trust that. Just like the 12 steps, they start off with saying, I can't think my way in a new way of being. It's going to take a higher power, mysterious power, some other force. And so you trust. And that's a hard thing to do. The 6 point is where both despair and faith live side by side. They're two sides of the same coin. And there's nothing wrong with doubt. And it's the other side of the coin from faith. And you have to work that out at some point. So meditation is always a practice of trust. And you can't do it. You trust that there is a force that will help you out. So that's where the trust comes in. If you don't have the trust, at any point of this chain of these 10 words, it can fall apart. So if you're sitting trying to do something in meditation, you're working against the system. Again, let it be done unto me. It's not, that's what let it be really means. You can put let it be right there. You're just going to let yourself be and trust that, trust the process that, people have been doing probably even before the Buddha, although the Buddha sort of codified it, gave us plenty of instructions. We think of the Buddha when we think of meditation. The Buddha was a heady guy. He was probably a 5 on the Enneagram. And he realized the limits of his own mind and then just found a way to go beyond it. But it took trust. Now, if you go up to the 9 point, so be still and trust the love. Well, the 9 is the center of the body, what they call the body types. And it's about love at the top of the Enneagram. Love is we're talking about love. Forget everything you know about love. We're talking about the energy that created the entire cosmos. We're talking about big energy here, the biggest energy. We talk about the Big Bang. That name stuck. They had other names for it. Somebody used the term Big Bang and it stuck. And but what was the energy? So when we talk about love, at least in terms of what we're doing here, it's that energy that brought you all here and that keeps you here. It's the energy. I'm looking out my window. It's the energy that created all this fecund growth that circles us. I'm circled by 18,000 acres of forest. just goes on and on. And the whole planet, and when we would view the planet from the moon, you'd see this beautiful green planet that just so rich. What created that? How did that happen? Was it just random? I don't believe it. And neither did anybody in any of the spiritual traditions. Yeah. And then now when we see more with the Hubble telescope, I mean, when you see a Van Gogh, you know it's a Van Gogh. Not because anybody told you, but because it has the imprint of the artist. So you see Chihuly kind of glass stuff, you can sort of recognize that. Oh, that's a Chihuly. It doesn't say it, but you recognize it. So you look at the cosmos, and you're really recognizing the artist. There's no, you can't be separate from your artwork. So who knows? But I just call it love. Teilhard de Chardin called it love. That's an energy that makes everything go. Okay. So be still and trust the love. And the love would be the stand in for what the 12-step guys call the higher power. Say, or God, or Allah, or the Buddha nature. They threw names at it. But everybody sensed there was something bigger than my ego. Thank goodness, even though it's pretty big. But you got to have something bigger than your ego. Otherwise, you're not going to make it even in your own individual journey. So be still and trust the love. Now, at the 3 point, the 2, 3, and 4, that's the relationship neighborhood. The temperaments there are, they just not only understand relationship at a depth that nobody else can understand. These are relationship cats here. They really get relationship, and life makes no sense without relationship. But it's also a very practical thing. You know, they want action. They want results, especially 3s. They want results. Show me the results. And so the love that moves the stars, we're talking about that. The last line of the Divine Comedy is when Dante's made his pilgrimage through hell and purgatory to the very center of heaven, where he saw the beatific vision. He said he saw the love that moved the sun and all the other stars. So, you know, we're talking about being still and trusting the love that moves the stars. I mean, if this whole universe is still moving, all of this, I mean, why is any of this here? It's a total mystery and a total blessing, total gift, and us too, you know. And at what point are we, to back it up, at what point are we going to actually trust this whole process enough to just be still and tune into it? This is how you get from the upper level of, you know, the understanding or knowledge of the Enneagram to the deep sort of tasting. One of the Psalm lines is taste and see. Say, there's a difference between knowing on a sort of intellectual level and tasting. And you taste something, it nourishes you, and you really know it. See, at another level. Yeah. So when we shift over to meditation, I'll use this line just to help you, to remind you of the way down the stairway to heaven. And then we'll just stay there for a while. Okay. So I think that's enough. Let's just get into meditation mode.